Let's talk about Docetism. The history of Docetism is a crucial chapter in the development of early Christian doctrine, as it represents one of the very first and most persistent challenges to the Orthodox understanding of Jesus Christ. The term Docetism comes from the Greek word dokein, which means to seem or to appear. The doctrine asserts that Jesus Christ was a purely divine being and only seemed to have a real human body, to suffer and to die on the cross. His physical existence was an illusion or a phantom. Here is a historical overview of Docetism among Christian views. Origins and philosophical roots from the 1st and 2nd centuries. Docetism did not arise from an internal misinterpretation of Christian dogma, but was largely influenced by the prevailing philosophical climate of the Hellenistic world, particularly Gnosticism and Greek dualism. Dualism, the widespread philosophical view that all matter is inherently evil, corrupt, or inferior, while the spirit is pure and good. The problem for the divine. Adherents to this view found it inconceivable that a perfect, transcendent, and impassible, or incapable of suffering, divine being, the Logos or Christ, could genuinely unite with or inhabit a corrupt material body, as that would entail impurity and suffering. For the next point, I don't think 1st and 2nd John was written by an apostle or in the 1st century, but there's still a valid point to make. Apostolic era warnings. The New Testament itself suggests that Docetic ideas were circulating during the lives of the apostles. The 1st and 2nd letters of John directly address this error, stating that the spirit of Antichrist is the one who does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. So the very earliest Christian writings we have that are even included in the Bible indicate that people were arguing over whether Jesus was a real person or not. Emergence as a defined heresy in the 2nd century. As Christianity grew and became systematized, Docetism became formally recognized and condemned. Gnosticism. Docetism was a core component of many Gnostic sects, such as the followers of Valentinus or Basilides. For the Gnostics, Christ was a revealer of secret knowledge who did not truly participate in the evil material world. Marcion of Sinope in 140 CE, a prominent figure who adopted a form of Docetism to maintain his belief in an all-loving, supreme God, distinct from the vengeful Old Testament creator. Marcion asserted that Jesus' body was not born but suddenly appeared as a grown man. His suffering and death were thus phantasmal, preserving the pure divinity of Christ. Ignatius of Antioch, early 2nd century. One of the earliest and fiercest opponents of Docetism, in his letters written around 110 CE, he stressed the real flesh and blood of Jesus, arguing that if Christ's suffering was a mere appearance, then the Eucharist, or communion, is meaningless, and the martyr's suffering is futile. Orthodoxy's response and clarification from the 2nd through 5th centuries. The challenge of Docetism forced the early church to clarify and define the doctrine of the Incarnation, that Christ was fully God and fully man in one person. The Church Fathers' refutation. Key theologians wrote extensively against Docetism, including Irenaeus of Lyon, against heresies. He emphasized that Christ's real humanity was necessary for the salvation of humanity, arguing that what he did not assume, he could not redeem. So if he didn't assume a human body, he couldn't redeem humans. And it is important to note that Irenaeus was arguing from a philosophical and theological position, not from a historical perspective. Tertullian against Marcion systematically attacked the Docetic and Marcionite denial of Christ's material body. So here we have a 3rd century man telling a 2nd century man he was wrong about the nature of a 1st century man. And Tertullian, like Irenaeus, was only arguing from a philosophical or theological perspective, not historical. Official condemnation. Docetism was eventually rejected by the ecumenical councils that established Orthodox Christology. The First Council of Nicaea in the 4th century, 325 CE. The Nicene Creed affirmed Christ as true God and true man. The Council of Chalcedon in the 5th century, 451 CE. The Chalcedonian definition established the Orthodox doctrine of the two natures of Christ, fully divine and fully human, united in one person, serving as the final official rejection of Docetism and related heresies. So the leaders of the Roman Church in the Roman Empire in the 4th and 5th centuries decided that Jesus was both fully God and fully man, and people just blindly accept that today. In essence, Docetism was rejected because it fundamentally undermined the Christian doctrine of salvation, which hinges on the belief that a truly human Christ could represent humanity in his life and death, could truly suffer and die to pay the penalty for sin, and could truly rise bodily from the dead, pioneering the resurrection of the physical body for all believers. So nobody wrote about Jesus during the lifetime of Jesus. Everyone who wrote about Jesus was writing in the 2nd century or later about a superhuman who did superhuman things for the purpose of saving your souls. And for many centuries, there were huge debates about whether Jesus was a fully divine character or if he had some real flesh. Was Jesus an imaginary phantasm or an illusion or hallucination? You see, nobody even argued that Jesus was a regular man. Nobody. But yet that's the conclusion that scholars come to today. The only possibility that nobody has ever argued for. And if people in the 2nd century did not know if Jesus was a real human or an imaginary human, then we shouldn't be debating it today. Jesus never existed. Jesus was a fictional, literary demigod created for the purpose of creating a religion.